Okay, thank you. So I'll love to once again welcome everyone to this meeting. Thank you so much for finding time to join this meeting today. Thank you so much. Like I said before, when it comes to advocating for learning in children, Bettina is one of such a person. She has a great wealth of knowledge in education, in helping children with disabilities to begin to read and write and learn effectively. So yes, I can see someone on the chat box telling us where she is from. Thank you so much for joining the meeting. So like she has done, I would like to also invite everybody to tell us from which country they are joining us from. Let's see, I can see Lori from USA. So can you type in the chat box from which country you are joining this webinar? Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you. I can see, wow, wonderful. Another person, Mary from USA. I can see Farida from Lagos, Nigeria. I can see Rwanda. I can see Angola. Thank you so much. Yes, another Nigerian here. Thank you so much. I can see Kenya. Thank you for joining us. Thank you so much. I can see South Africa. I know we are going to be having people from various countries in this webinar. Thank you so much for joining us. So in the next few minutes, I know that other people are still going to join us for this workshop, but let's keep expecting them while we start. So in the next few minutes, I'm going to be inviting our guest speaker for today, but I want to first tell us some things about her before I call her to speak. So Bettina has an undergraduate degree in pedagogy and a post-graduation in psychopedagogy from Brazil. She also has a master's degree in early childhood education from Florida Atlantic University. She works with learning disabilities. She's a trainer for early childhood educators, and she also writes in journals. She writes for Scholars Particulars, that's a journal in French. Thank you so much. And she has written various ebooks and also hardcover books. She has a great wealth of experience when it comes to dealing with learning disabilities, especially among children. So with great joy in my heart, I want to welcome Bettina to come up and speak to us today about how we can recognize and deal with those red flags that hinder literacy development in children. You're welcome, Bettina. Thank you so much.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining me in this workshop. Today, we're going to talk about recognizing and dealing with the red flags that hinder literacy development in children. Red flags are the first signs that a child can have any delays or learning disabilities. Everybody seeing me and listen and hearing me? Oh, okay. If not, please let me know. Oh, hold on.
Yes, Bettina, it's very clear. Thank you.
Okay. First, I want to show you this picture with the human brain development. Here is the pregnancy. Here is when the child is born. Okay, so you can see that sensory hearing and vision, it starts right at birth to develop. If the child has everything, right, all the what he needs, and with 3-4 months, it gets its highest. And the language that is very important for us today, it gets at 7-8 months old when they start bubbling, okay? And on the red one is the cognitive function development, right? And it gets, it's higher at 3, 4, 5 years old, is as we call early childhood education age, okay? First, we're going to talk a little bit about the recognition of written material. I'm going to talk to you about the development of the recognition, and then I'll give you some strategies or ideas how to develop, okay? From birth to 18 months, children like pop-ups and enjoy books about daily routines. When they get a little bit older, 2, 3 years old, they start like books with animals and occupations, and they can relate to emotion and expressions on books. When they get a character that they like a lot, and recognize familiar written signs. From 3 to 5 years old, they use signs in the environment for information. They classify the printed material, and they play and like to play with written material. It's very important nowadays to have newspapers, magazines, flyers, all kinds of written materials with different words and ways to write, because children are getting too much from the internet, and they are losing, they are not having contact with a lot of written material that they can get in their hands. Some strategies, how to develop it. From birth to 18 months, read different materials and have lots of pictures available. Everywhere you can have in your classroom pictures available, so they can start recognizing some emotions and some situations and animals. From 1.5 to 3 years old, you can incorporate in the classroom routine some prints like the word, the written word, and the drawing, okay? And it's very important to start having the routine written with the drawing on the side, so children can start to relate the sound to the written word. Explain the function of different printed materials. From 3 to 5 years old, model the use of different materials and have tons of different materials. In fact, it's good if you have a center, a written center, so you can have all kinds of different materials. Have all kinds of printed material. Then we are going to talk a little bit about the reading phonological awareness, how it develops in children from birth to 18 months. They react to different sounds. They vocalize some familiar words. Is when they start bubbling a little bit, and sometimes parents don't understand, but they are talking. For them, they are communicating, and it's good for us to answer, like we are accepting what they're saying. Recite the last word of familiar rhymes, like familiar songs, okay, for children. From 1.5 to 3 years old, they recite phrases from familiar rhymes, so They get more sentences. They participate in rhyming games, and they love rhyming games. They love rhyming songs, and they can clap hands and speak with speed. They can recognize fast and slow. From 3 to 5 years old, they participate and create songs, rhymes, and games. They love that. You get a familiar song and make up with them another words for transition. They love it. Make 3 or more letter sound correspondence, like they can recognize some words and the song and the sounds. Differentiates between similar sounding words. Okay, they can differentiate the words. Some strategies. These are strategies good for every child. Read books with rhymes until 18 months. Clap, stomp, and dance. After the pandemic, one of the best exercises for children is dance. Since they are young, okay? And songs for children with repetition and rhymes since they are born. From 1.5 to 3 years old, make up songs using familiar vocabulary. If the parents go or you're going with your child to the grocery store, talk to them on the bus, talk to them what is happening in the restaurant, wherever, or in the classroom, okay? Because they are getting familiar with the song, with the sound. And read books focusing on sounds, okay? Because it's very important for them to have the picture and one word, so they can start relate the written word to the sound. From 3 to 5 years old, they are older, so they can sing more of the rhyming songs on the children, the rhyming songs, make up on silly songs, or start getting some words from the songs and sing word songs, leaving out parts as you sing along, okay? And they can and check if they can recognize. We are going now to talk about their delays of development and their learning abilities, okay? The delays, it's something that happens momentarily in this moment that the child is going through or the family is going through, okay? They can be confused with learning abilities. They overcome, and they can overcome. So it's something that we notice in the classroom, but usually can be overcome very easily. So we need to be very careful not to label the child. Failure to meet some milestones. So it's not going to meet the milestones right at this certain age, but it can delay a little bit, but they can get there. The child falls outside the range of development, but it's slightly, and it's momentary. Learning disabilities. Learning disabilities, the difference is that as neurological condition, okay? And it affects the development, integration, verbal and non-verbal abilities. It can affect self-esteem, education, and or living activities. We start to notice that even at home, and they cannot relate to the other children, and their daily activities are they cannot do it. So then we need to worry about. There's some misconceptions, like denotes a lack of intelligence. No, it has nothing to do with intelligence. Uh, you need to recognize what's the learning ability and then check what is going on. Some parents, when you say, it's going to say, oh, you will get better as they get older. No, if it's a neurological disability, it's not going to get better, okay, and can be easily identified. No, because it can only be identified by a professional, okay? We are now going to talk about some red flags. Delayed speech. What I mean by delayed speech is that at 5 years old, it's not, you cannot understand what they are talking, or the child cannot say a word, right? So give some time to the children to develop at their own pace. Pronunciation problems, so we cannot understand what they're talking, and short attention span. At this 5 years old, they should have more attention span. And then it's a child that goes from one place to another in the classroom, and we cannot get them to sit. Difficult with buttoning, zipping, and tying. What I mean is that cannot dress and undress themselves, okay? At 4 or 5 years old, they can do it. Cannot follow simple instructions like get your lunchbox. Difficult learning new words, numbers, days of a week, shapes, colors, and the alphabet. Now I'm going to talk a little bit with you about the prevailing learning abilities, okay? Which ones we have that and how we can recognize some characteristics, okay? Expressive language involves difficulty with the language processing. So the child cannot express what they are thinking or what it's their needs because they don't have the words. Affects communication of thoughts, and it has difficulty in receptive language, like they receive an instruction and they cannot process, so they cannot answer the right way. Dyslexia, difficult in reading basic skills, cannot understand and cannot make the relationship between sound and words and letters, okay? Then they cannot recognize even their names. Has difficulty in understanding large passages, phrases, and words. Dysgraphia. It's about basic writing skills. So a child with 2.5, 3 years old starts making hypotheses of writing, okay? It's when they scramble some letters that means to them that they are writing that word. We accepted this hypothesis, but a child with dysgraphia cannot have this, okay? They cannot understand and comprehend the words and the sounds, right? And they cannot make hypotheses. Difficult in producing written words and letters. That's what I mean about hypothesis. Dyscalculia, trouble with problem solving, because problem solving is related to math. The ability to understand the meaning of numbers. They cannot relate the quantity to the number, and difficult in basic math. Cannot understand basic math concepts like colors and numbers from 1 to 5, 1 to 10. This one, for me, SPD, sensory processing disorder, for me is the most difficult one to for us to identify because it has a process problem in the brain. So it's a difficulty to process an information, okay? We know that at this age, children use all senses, but they cannot get their hand and process the information. And sometimes they are called clumsy because, they cannot understand around them. So they cannot relate to other children. Difficult in being a part of a group because they cannot recognize everything that the other children are recognizing, and very disruptive because they think they are their attention span is very low, so they cannot, and they start disrupting the classroom because they're not understanding what's going around. We have some assessment techniques, okay? Observations, portfolio collection. These observations need to be done during a period of time, at least 2 or 3 months, okay? And these problems, these difficulties need to be there for 2 or 3 months at least. Portfolio collection, you get some activities from the children, some drawings, and put in a portfolio so you can show their development. Interviews with the family is very important to listen to the families, and dynamic assessment. Dynamic assessment it means like having photos, videos, and observing every day, every week, right? We know that sometimes we don't have this time in the classroom. But remember, everything, observations and photos and videos needs to be locked. Cannot be for everybody and cannot be shown to the other children, okay? Just to the parents if you need. There are some things that we need to take into consideration before and during the assessment. Physical development, because sometimes the child has a problem that is a physical development, and it can overcome skills. Every child has a lot of skills. This is the most important for me now. On culture, habits, and family structure. We need to respect every family. It doesn't matter what their structure is, their culture and habits. We have a lot of families moving around from South America to Europe to Africa, it doesn't matter. And it's not the language, it's the culture that you have inside. So you need to have a lot of interviews with the families to understand this, because sometimes they have some habits and the way they treat children is different than we do it. The interest of the child and the family interaction, child, and child-adult. Observation, you can understand what is going on, okay? Children understand each other, even with this child. Praise when this child accomplished a goal, but not praise him or her right away so they can understand, and not Don't fake praise. Oh, everything that you do is great. No. What this child did at this point, because all of them have a lot of things that they do right. Encouragement, offer an encouragement environment. Reinforcement, remind the child to focus attention to his or her abilities. They all have abilities uh, that, sorry, that they can develop. It doesn't matter if they have a difficulty or not. They can have a visual difficulty and can read very well or can listen very well. So we need to reinforce what they have good. Listen what I said before. Listen very carefully to the family and the child. Understand. Try to understand this family. As I said before, try to understand them, where they are coming from, what the structure of this family is, and what the family is going through at this time. Creativity, try find different activities and ways to teach. Use songs, use pictures, use gestures, use videos, everything that you have in your hands, and tactile, and they can smell something, okay? Now I'm going to give you some examples here of materials that you can use. This one are balls, okay? You can use, balls are great for children. Here you have very small ball and two big balls, but use balls in different sizes, different weights, and different materials. These are very important. They can throw, they can roll, and balls do great with children, and it's a lot of fun. Proven that nature after the pandemic, adults and children meet. Sometimes living in big cities, they don't have so much contact with nature. So bring to the classroom like leaves and branches and some fruit, everything that you have from nature. They can play, they can touch, they can compare. It's very, very important. And this one, you can see a lot of materials, different ones. For example, you can use rolls of paper towels. You can use pots, plastic pots, and with their lid, with its lids. You can use different papers, like different kinds of papers. You can use sandpaper is great because they can feel the difference, tactile, and you can use small plastic plates to play house. It's very important. One of At this age, there are two very important centers: play, uh, housekeeping, and blocks. Okay. This is the bibliography, Early Learning Guidelines from New York State. NAAC, if you have access to National Association for the Education of Young Child, it's great. It has great articles and books. It's in the US. Pre-kindergarten learning from California, invitations from Reg Rotman, and development appropriate practice in early childhood programs. This for me is the Bible of teachers who teach early childhood. Now I can answer any questions from you. And if you want to talk to me, the first uh, slide, I have my email address is bettinasurson1@gmail.com. If you want my WhatsApp number, I can give you later, okay? Now, do we have any questions? Let me check the chat.
Thank you so much, Bettina. That was a very great presentation. I would say that you have touched some things that are very important for the classroom, and even when we are dealing with children in the house. And you said something that learning disability does not denote lack of intelligence. You know, if we are not careful as educators, we feel that a child that has some learning disability is a dull child. It is not so. I like that you mentioned that aspect and you explained it that peradventure you have a child in your classroom or maybe your own children, one of them has a learning disability, it is not a sign that that child is dull. In the real sense, every child is brilliant. No child is dull. It is left to the teachers, to the parents to harness the potential in every child. Very wonderful. Thank you, Bettina. Then you also said again that we should not think that some learning disabilities will get better as these children grow older. No, it does not happen like that. Those learning disabilities must be quickly recognized and they must be speedily dealt with if we want them, if you don't want these disabilities to affect the children. Thank you so much, Bettina. That was a great point there. And as educators, as parents, we must be swift to recognize learning disabilities in children. But Bettina said something. She said that it is only professionals that can recognize this learning disability. And that is where the problem comes for us, especially those of us in Africa, where we do not usually have many of these professionals in the classroom. So what becomes the lot of children in the classroom that do not have professionals as teachers? What if there is a classroom teacher that has not been trained or equipped to recognize some learning disabilities among children? But let me first take questions from the participants, then I will ask my question after everyone. So if you have any question, you can type it in the chat box. Okay.
You said about the diagnose. What I said is because to protect the teachers, because in Brazil and in the US, I don't know in Africa, we cannot as teachers diagnose any child. So what we can do through observations and a good report, you can ask the parents to take to a doctor or someone else to check the child, okay? Because it's very hard for us to diagnose, and we cannot, okay? I know that it's a lack, but it's a lack of professionals around the world. Here in Brazil is the same thing, and probably in the US is the same thing, okay? Do we have any questions?
Okay, thank you, Bettina. If you have any question, you can type it in the chat box You could also unmute yourself to ask the questions. You can unmute yourself and type in the chat box if you have questions. So as we have learned today, those red flags that we must recognize are those delays that children experience when it comes to learning. We have a child who is above 2 years old and still cannot talk fluently, or maybe a child is 5 years and above and that child cannot speak fluently. You have a child who is struggling to unbutton his zip or to unbutton himself or take down his zip. That's another red flag. We have a child that has difficulty in recognizing and pronouncing sounds. Very important. When the child, especially is age 2 and above, 3 and above, 4 and above, and that child cannot still pronounce any sound. That's another red flag that we must take notes in children. These are things that will hinder them from developing when it comes to literacy. So do we have anyone with any question? Okay, I can see something in the chat box.
See this one here.
Okay.
Can you
Okay,
see it?
Rodas.
Yeah.
Okay.
People with disabilities are not included. Are education people with disabilities often face barriers to accessing quality and inclusive education, such as lack of accessibility infrastructure, materials, and curricula, negative attitudes and discrimination from teachers and peers, and inadequate policies and funding. As a result, people with disabilities have lower levels of literacy, enrollment, completion, and attainment than people without disabilities. Yet, how can we improve that? Well, first, the governments need, the society as a whole needs to understand that disability is not something that it's going to cause any problems for you. And it's hard because society wants everybody, and the media, social media, it's hard on us. They want everybody beautiful, everybody happy, and no disabilities at all. It's a problem all over the world, and you're right. They face a lot of problems. For example, my city, that's a big city. Now the public parks, need to have a space for children with disabilities. Okay, they have how to get there, but the the ride and everything that is there, it's not for children with disabilities. So they go and sit there and stay there. So all over the world is the same. We need to keep fighting. That's what I can say. Hello, everyone. Is there an age for a child to start recognizing letters enough to read? In fact, as they are born, children start to have contact with sounds and letters, okay? But we call this informal, how they informally start reading, okay? But formally, we start at 5 years old because 5, 6, because they are neurologically, mature enough. But with 1.5, 2 years old, they can have contact with the letters and sounds already. Okay, since they're born with books, not a lot of letters and a lot of words, but for example, for 1.5, they love books like, for example, dog, and there is the word dog, a picture of a dog, a picture of a cat, and the cat there. They love it, and they start recognize their names. How can we handle children with such disabilities? Not slow learning or slow speech. Yeah, when a child has a disability, it's probably diagnosed already. So then you need to talk to the professional. You need to have access to the professional with or read a report from the professional and get the family, make a bridge between the families and the school so we can deal with it better. Okay, the family will tell how they are dealing in at home, and the professional how we can deal in the classroom. Okay.
Thank you, Bettina. Thank you for answering those questions. I'd like to say something about Rhoda's question. Now, Rhoda, when we are talking about learning disability, now the first thing is that learning disability and physical disability, they are two different things. Okay, now a child with a physical disability might likely have maybe a sign of learning disability, but I think you are emphasizing physical disability among children. Some children are very healthy, they are okay, they are fine, health-wise, they are doing fine, but it's possible for those kind of children to have some form of learning disability, not being able to learn effectively in the classroom. I think you are coming from the point of view of people who have physical disability. And like Rhoda said, one thing we can all do is to keep advocating for children like that. Children that have physical disability, like you said, they are likely to have low enrollment. Many of them might not have access to quality education because actually many of our African classrooms do not address issues when it comes to children with physical disability. Some of them just focus on children that they think that, oh, these ones can learn effectively. There is no form of learning disability in this child, and so this child is able to learn effectively. And what happens to those children that are on wheelchair? What of children that can't walk to school themselves? What of children that can't speak effectively? What of children that can't even hear at all? Like Bettina said, one thing we can do for children with physical disability is to make sure that we keep advocating for them. And it is the duty of you and I to arise for those children. As a matter of fact, the government might be less concerned about children with physical disability, but you and I can arise as learning advocates to make sure that these children, they are given quality education, to make sure that they have access to quality education, to make sure that they are enrolled in school. What if as a person you take up the challenge of enrolling children with physical disability in the school. It's very good. It's very important for the society of today. Now, but when we come to today's issue, learning disability, children that are LD, they can talk, they can walk themselves, they can eat themselves, they can do so many things health-wise. The doctor might even certify them to be very okay. But it's possible for children like that to have some form of learning disability, which can only be diagnosed by professionals. But teachers in the classroom can somehow detect this disability through observation. Just like Bettina said, we can observe the child to take note that, oh, this child is dealing with dysgraphia, this child is dealing with dyslexia, this child is dealing with dyscalculia. And so after observation by the teacher can now go on to invite a professional who has been certified to say that this child has a form of learning disability. Now, Bettina, my question is now, what becomes a lot in Africa? In Africa, professionals that can diagnose learning disabilities, they are very scarce. So is there a way that teachers can also be certified to diagnose learning difficulty? Is there a training that we can give teachers in African classrooms that would make them to diagnose and certify that this particular set of children, they are dealing with these forms of learning disability? That's my question.
Okay, so what you're telling me are problems that in Brazil are the same thing, the same issues we have here with the professionals, and it's hard to have a good diagnosis, and parents, they refuse to take children to the professionals. There is a lack of professionals. Everything is the same. But we need, as teachers, to be aware what is going on with this child. And maybe we can help even without the professional, okay? And what I give you as strategies and some materials or some ideas that you can have in the classroom to help these children. And all over the world, and after the pandemic is worse, mental health, it's a big problem now. So parents are dealing with mental health issues. And they cannot take their children to a place because they are dealing with the mental health. So it's very heavy. It's very hard all over the world. Let me see this one from Rhoda. I went through a lot just because I have physical disability. My teachers underestimate me, and it sounded that I couldn't be anything important. Yeah, unfortunately, this is right. Teachers sometimes any kind of problems, physical problem, and physical is worse because it shows there to deal with. And a lot of teachers and parents, they do the same thing. And we can call emotional abuse, right? Because when you say to a child that because it's abusive, right? Because it's not true. And physical is less than the other ones. this child can hear, can process information, can do everything that the other can. I'm so sorry what you went through. Something else?
Wow. Bettina, thank you so much for addressing that. Rhoda, can you speak? I would like to ask, how were you able to overcome everything your teachers did to you? I wish I could hear something from you. Can you speak? Do you wish to speak or you want to maybe not speak? Can you tell us what came up? How were you able to overcome those underestimation and insults your teachers rained on you? What happened along the way? Can you say something?
Well, we need a lot of changes in society, right? Against women, against homosexuals, against different families structure. People don't like what they don't know, right? They have a problem with what they don't know. So they are afraid what we they don't know. So that's why that's I think when it starts the prejudice, right? Because they don't know what they are dealing with, so they are scared. Um, Explaining to them is the only way that we can get there, right? And showing that there is no harm, there is no problem, that we can do a bridge and both sides can reach an agreement is the only way, right? We can see we have two wars now, two big wars now in the world that is affecting the whole world. And we had like, yes, the day before yesterday, you know, gunshot against, and this person, this man killed more than 20 people, right, in the US. And we are having, like, this week, on Monday, this week here, a boy of 16-year-old, a 16-year-old got the gun from his father and killed his own peers in the classroom and some teachers. So in a school here in my city. So all over the world is scary, and we need to take care of ourselves and show people. Now I'm going to write here my email address for everybody. If you have any questions, please let me know. And my WhatsApp number is 5511 9702 0077. If you remember anything any doubts or anything that you need from me, you can reach me on this.
Thank you, Bettina. Rhoda
You're
typed
welcome.
something on the chat box that is very notable. She said, I overcame all the underestimations, insults, and bullying because I have a mother who is with me and she's my backbone. I not believe my disability is my ability. She also said, my mom has said, you will finish your education no matter what. And when I wanted to give up, she helped and motivated me. And I don't want to disappoint her. Wow, your mom is indeed very amazing. I give her a thumbs up for the great and wonderful job she did in your life, Rhoda. I know that she's still there for you. I pray that God will strengthen her and she will continue to give you all the encouragement that you need. But rather, I appreciate that you decided not to give up. You are a worthy example to other children out there that may be experiencing one form of physical disability or the other. As you said, you have got to realize that your disability is your ability. Thank you so much, Rhoda, for not giving up. More strength to your mother, more strength to you. And as you have decided not to give up, you are going higher, you are going places, great and wonderful things are coming forth from your life. I appreciate you. Thank you so much for speaking, for letting us know this thing about you. I appreciate your wonderful and amazing personality. God bless you, Rhoda. Thank you so much, everyone. It's 1 minute to 5 p.m. We are running out of our time for today, but I would like to appreciate someone among us. Omar, God bless you. I didn't know that we have participants among us that are deaf. Omar has been the one interpreting to these deaf people using sign language. I didn't expect that at all. Omar, God bless you. We appreciate you. Thank you for taking our time to interpret to those who are deaf among us. Thank you so much. I didn't expect that this was going to happen in today's webinar. I never invited Omar to come and interpret using sign language to deaf people, but he has come here willingly himself to make sure that those that are deaf also take part in this webinar and that they learn from this webinar. Thank you so much, Omar. Omar, surprisingly, I might be coming to you every month for this. Thank you so much. Thank you, Omar.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
You are so
Stay
amazing.
well. Bye.
Thank you so much, everybody, for joining today's webinar. So we are going to be meeting on the last Friday of November, and November is likely to be our last webinar for the year. We don't usually do webinars in December because it's usually a festive period. So thank you so much, everybody, for coming. Thank you, Bettina. Thank you for the wonderful presentation. Thank you, Omar. God bless you. Thank you, all participants. See you in the next webinar of November. I am Abiodun Olowoyo, the program leader of Songbooks Initiative in Nigeria. Thank you and bye for now.
Bye.